Hello, this is Julius, Basic Financials. This video is going to be about directors' loan accounts, or directors' current accounts as you might sometimes see them called. To be more precise, the most thing I want to talk about is when they go overdrawn. Now, I'll start off by saying what a director's current account is. This often happens when you've got, say, a small company, say it's just one person carrying on their business through a limited company. They might pay themselves a small salary. They might even not actually pay themselves the small salary. They might just put a small salary through their payroll, and then the net pay gets credited to your director's current account, but then you draw out what you want to. That's often what happens. Whether that's right or wrong, it's another thing. But so you might decide, I'm going to draw £2,000 a month out of my company, but only, say, £800 of the month of it is salary, and that's credited to it. Now, in those circumstances, if you're doing your bookkeeping, say on a computerized bookkeeping system, and it shows up all the balances on the various what they call nominal accounts. One of those nominal accounts would be the director's account, where you have credits and debits going to, that's amounts going in and coming out from. So, for example, those £2,000 a month drawings that you take out would be going to the debit of the director's loan account, going out of there. Now, if there's not enough going into the other side of it, you would go overdrawn. In other words, it will show you as owing the company back that money, because it will show that you've borrowed money from the company. Now, what normally happens is, if you've got an accountant at the end of the year, they will cover any amounts that you've overdrawn with dividends, which is what you'd expect. So a normal situation with a relatively small single-person company, you would have small salary, and the rest, everything else you take out would be in dividends. Now, what you have to be a little bit careful about is what often happens is you don't particularly want to keep the money in the company. If the company's got money in the bank, you might think, well, it's not doing anything there. I want to do stuff with it, so you draw it all out. Now, this can be a bit of a problem for your accountant when it comes to the end of the accounting year, because what will happen is you'll be overdrawn on your loan account. There won't be much money left in the company. Effectively, you will have drawn more dividends than you're allowed to, because you can only take dividends out of distributable profits. And you might think to yourself, well, surely if I've got money in the bank, I must have had the profits to be able to take those dividends. But your accountant will be making a tax provision, corporation tax provision. So if the company's made a profit, it pays corporation tax. At the moment it's 19%, and the accountant will put a provision for that tax into the accounts, and that comes off the profit. So you have your profit before tax provision, profit after tax, and it's that profit after tax that you're allowed to take dividends out of. So if you've taken more than you're allowed to, you'll have an overdrawn loan account. The accountant won't be able to cover it all with dividends, because they basically would be illegal dividends. So you'll have an overdrawn loan account which just sits there at the end of the year. Now, in itself, that might not be a problem. The most likely situation is going to be, okay, so the corporation tax has to be paid, and when it does, you're probably going to put the money back into the company to pay the corporation tax. And that corporation tax has to be paid 9 months and 1 day after the end of the accounting year. And as it happens, that's when you also have to repay the loan account for you not to have to pay a tax charge on your overdrawn loan account. So that's the next bit I was going to say. If you have an overdrawn loan account, if it's not paid back within 9 months and 1 day of the accounting reference date, the company has to pay a notional tax charge. It's like a deposit, I suppose. So if you had a £10,000 overdrawn loan account at the end of the accounting year and you didn't pay it back within 9 months, the company would have to pay 38.1% tax charge on it to the HMRC, and that company only gets that back when the loan's repaid, and it takes actually longer than that because it's after the accounting year in which the loan is repaid, so you'll end up having to wait quite a long time for it. You don't get it back as soon as you repay that loan. So you have to watch out for that. If the other thing is, if you've got an overdrawn loan account, if it's more than £10,000, then there's a benefit in kind if you're not paying interest on it. It's a beneficial loan, and the HMRC have an official rate of interest that they charge as a benefit in kind on beneficial loans, and you might be taxed on that. So that's what an overdrawn loan account is. Sometimes it can be quite a problem. It's very common that you do go overdrawn and the accountant will sort it out at the end of the year. But especially where you've got small companies and the owners are taking all of the money out effectively, which is fair enough. But really, we want to be keeping the amount of the tax in there, really, just to make things simple. So if you make a profit of, if you make a £20,000 profit, think to yourself, well, say 20%, need to keep that in, so to keep £4,000 in the company for the corporation tax, rather than drawing it out and then paying it back later on. It just makes things a bit simpler, and it ensures that the company's got enough money when it needs it for paying the tax. I hope that helps. Anyway, it's a little bit of a technical topic, but very common with small companies, and you probably heard the term, sometimes wondered what it was all going on about. That gives you a bit of a clue, I hope. Thanks for listening. If you've got any questions, please leave them in the box below. And if you like and subscribe as usual, I'll see you again for another video soon. Bye.